Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of the Motorsport Life Show. Today we are looking at 24-hour races, the battles of the best, the lesser known, and who can claim to be the greatest, because they all seem to do it. And also we'll be looking at some other 24-hour races that you might not have heard of. And also in our section that we cover other content creators on the internet, we will be looking at this. Find out what that's all about later on. But please sit back and enjoy. So yes, hello and welcome. As I said, today we are looking at 24-hour races because we are in the build-up to the Spa 24 Hours, claiming to be the greatest and the best GT 24-hour race in the world. Now, we need to talk about that, so that's what we're going to do today. So the weekend just gone, I was lucky enough to go to Spa-Francorchamps for the British GT Championship. Now, British GT in Belgium, doesn't seem to add up, right? So what they tend to do is they will do that race because it's not too far away, it's not too bad to travel to, it's just either you can go on the Channel Tunnel or you can go on the ferry, and you're there. It doesn't add too much cost for the teams, and it is, as we all know, one of the greatest circuits on the planet. So they tend to do one flyaway race a year, and it does tend to be Spa. And what an event it was! It was full of attrition. Hardly any cars finished out of the field. There was a fire on the first lap. I know that Adam Christodoulou was burnt on his hands and his feet. So hopefully you're doing okay, Adam, and we wish you all the best. There was a crash at Eau Rouge on the first lap, so there was a lot of attrition there. And the British GT Championship actually formed the first part of what they're calling Speed Week at Spa, which is the British GT, the weekend just gone, and the Spa 24 Hours this weekend coming. So the Spa 24, as we said, claims to be the greatest GT championship on the planet. So let's challenge that a bit, shall we? And delve into what we think makes the greatest GT championship, or the greatest 24-hour GT race, should I say. Now, let's have a look at the main contenders, shall we? Firstly, we've got the Nürburgring 24 Hours, which has already happened this year. Great event, variable weather, rain, cold, hot, as you'd imagine. But Spa, having been there now, first time I'd actually been there, surprisingly, was very, very similar in its location. You know, it was in mountainous area, forests, in the Ardennes forest, compared to the Eiffel Mountains, the Eiffel Forest for the Nürburgring. So it was very similar, and I'm led to believe that the weather is also very changeable there, although we didn't experience that, we just had sunshine, which was great. So we've had the Nürburgring 24 Hours, there is also the Dubai 24 Hours, and the Portimao 24 Hours, and there are a few others of the 24-hour series, of which Dubai and Portimao and 12-hour races as well, which we're not going to count because they're not 24-hour races, before you say that. So I would say that those are the main ones, but there's also a slight curveball, which is Le Mans, obviously. Now, I would definitely claim that this is the most famous 24-hour race in the world, as in the most people know about it, but obviously it's not a GT race. Now, some will be like, excuse me, yes it is, but it isn't. It is a multi-class 24 hours. So we have the LMP1, the LMP2, and then we have GTs. So if you're looking at it from a GT point of view, yes, there is a GT race going on, but it's not the main event. It's not where the headlines are made. Now, for the manufacturers, they would argue differently, but obviously if Porsche win or Audi win the main race, you're not going to get as much coverage. The GT cars, maybe even a Porsche as well, who win the GT race aren't going to get as much coverage. So whether we count that or not, I don't know, which kind of makes me feel like we shouldn't, because it's not an out-and-out GT race. Now, there's a lot of transfer between people who race in the Spa 24, the Nürburgring 24, the Le Mans 24, and all the other 24s. Let's say 24 more. And so I would say that we are now looking at Spa and Nürburgring 24 Hours, who can claim to be the greatest 24-hour race for GT cars on the planet. So, my personal opinion, and God forbid it should be different to yours, but this is my opinion, and I will explain my reasoning. My opinion is that the Nürburgring 24 Hours is the greatest GT race on the planet. Now, a few things to take into account and obviously to talk about. Now, the circuit. Obviously, the Nürburgring is the hardest and most grueling circuit to race around in a GT car. What? How can you say that so easily? Well, it's 14 miles long, 15 miles long. I can't remember how long the actual 24-hour configuration is, but it's about that. Whereas Spa is kind of 4.5, I think. So it's 10 miles longer. Now think about that. So if you go into the first corner, you get a touch of someone and you get a puncture. You've now got to drive around for 14 miles with a puncture, or your suspension belt's got to drive that distance. If you hit the barrier and break pieces off your car, you've then got to drive around the whole lap like that. That's number one. Think how difficult that is. Another one is the weather. Now, yes, I said that Spa and Nürburgring both have changeable weather, but again, if it starts raining at one point of the circuit at Spa, you're normally okay. You can carry on slicks. Whereas at the Nürburgring, half of the track could be wet, which is 7 miles, and you've got to drive on slicks, or do you go onto wets? And you don't know if it's going to be coming across to the other side of the circuit or back to stay in that place, how long it's going to rain for in each area. So all of that, I think, not only is a massive test on the driver, but also the teams to call drivers in for new tyres, new setup, driver changes, fuel stops, etc. And I think that is one of the key things to look at here, is the circuit and the effect that has on it. Now, size of field, again, Nürburgring has Spa beaten on this, but again, there's a slight caveat on that, because obviously Nürburgring 24 Hours is a multi-class race. So there's the GT3s, which are called SP9, and there's loads of different classes. So there's GT3 car specs, there's GT4, there's 911 Cup cars, there are touring cars, there's Clio Cups, there's mini challenge cars. Kind of, if your car is homologated to a touring car or GT class or sports car spec, you're pretty much guaranteed that you'll be able to race it there. And due to the circuit being so long, you can have a huge number of cars on the track. So I think, we're talking like 120 maybe? I can't remember how many start, but it's over 100, and in all of the different classes, and they stagger the starts. Now, to work your way through the traffic as a GT3 driver through cars that are going that much slower than you is very difficult and taxing, and especially on the Nürburgring, which is very narrow compared to modern circuits like Spa. So I think that also plays a massive role in the reason why I think that the Nürburgring is the greatest. Because at Spa, they're all GT3 cars, and I know that there's a difference between pro and amateur drivers and gentleman drivers. But the difference in pace is kind of 3 or 4 seconds, whereas the Nürburgring, we've got cars that are doing let's say 130, 140 down the straight. You've got other cars doing 160, 170, and through the corners, obviously GT3 cars have massive amounts of downforce, huge slick tyres, and then you come up on a Clio Cup car or a mini challenge car or a Toyota GT86 going considerably slower, and they're constantly carving through. So what I'm going to do now is going to put some highlights on the screen of the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Hopefully this will show you what I mean. So you'll see the start of the race, you'll see some attrition, you'll see the different changes in weather, see some onboards, and you'll just see how crazy it is. And just, I can't see how you can say that Spa 24 Hours is the greatest when the Nürburgring one exists. Now, Spa will probably get more coverage, I would say, than the Nürburgring through mainstream media, because it's GT3 cars, it's more manufacturer based, and it's at a Formula 1 circuit, which is always going to help it. Whereas the Nürburgring is obviously no longer a Formula 1 circuit in the Nordschleife configuration. So hopefully now you'll be seeing, or you'll have seen the kind of the winning team winning at Nürburgring, and just see what it means to them. you can tell that they've been working so hard for 24 hours against the changing weather, different strategy. So hopefully you can see it from my point of view, but I really would like to know what you think down below in terms of which you think the greatest is. So what we'll do is, so that we are fair, I'll now put some highlights on the screen for the Spa 24 hours. And again, you'll see even from the first corner, I think it's the second place driver, Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini, has a huge moment through Eau Rouge and nearly ends it for quite a few drivers. Now, obviously, they always say that a 24-hour race is a sprint for 24 hours and not an endurance race. Now, I get that. I still think there is always going to be a form of fuel saving. There's also going to be a form of tyre wear saving. But Spa 24, you can see it as more of a sprint because the circuit's so much shorter, so you can go harder because there's less consequence if something goes wrong. Whereas at the Nürburgring, you're in the wall, and even if you do get going, which a lot of the time you do in endurance racing, you've got to keep on driving for that much longer to get to the pit stop. And finally, just to kind of put a nail in the coffin for the Spa 24 hour, and by that I don't mean that it's not any good, because we're comparing something that's awesome with something that's awesome. They're both awesome and great events, and I will be watching the Spa 24 this weekend as much as I can, and I did watch, the Nürburgring. So I love both of them. But one thing I would like to talk about is the fans. Now, I've been to the Nürburgring 24 hours and I haven't been to the Spa 24 hours, so maybe this is a bit of a null point. But at the Nürburgring 24 hours, it is a massive festival and carnival feel. Again, because it's so big, there's so much space for people to go, there's so many campsites, but people are coming in over a week before. They come and build these huge bar structures, with 2 floors, with fully branded up and graffitied, with tables and chairs and everything. It's like you're going into a bar at a festival, and there's people with flares, there's fun fairs, there's everything going on. Whereas Spa, I think, is a lot more sitting grandstand. There's designated entertainment zones and things like that, and obviously there will be campsites where there are parties, but I just feel that it won't be as much of a festival feel as Nürburgring is, and I will love to go back one year, hopefully next year. If you're watching and want me to come along and film you guys, please let me know. Thanks. So hopefully then that will kind of give you my opinion of which I think is the best and why. Now, as I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts below on why you think one of them is the best, or if you've got another idea for another 24-hour race which could be better. Now, on that, great segue, there is also the simulated world 24-hour race of Le Mans. So again, we'll put some footage on the screen of that, but it's based on iRacing, and I think it was the first ever year that they did a full 24-hour race, with driver changes, full commentary, full coverage with timing, etc. It's on the screen now to show you. But I think this is certainly the way that things are going, and with F1 bringing in an esports draft and having official esports teams on their books, it certainly shows the signs of things to come. And events like this iRacing, official iRacing Le Mans race for 24 hours with 3 different classes, LMP2, GT1 and GT2. So it is slightly outdated, is my only thing that I would say is in the negative column for that. But if you know a driver or if you know a team, then certainly you're going to watch that, and it's again broadcast live on YouTube for everybody to watch. So that's another one. And finally, a bit of a different 24-hour race, let's say, but there is a 24-hour 2CV race, believe it or not, and that has been for numerous years. It's been to Spa, Anglesey, Snetterton, and yes, you heard me right, 2CV racing for 24 hours. Now, I think this is awesome, and this is the sort of thing that should be getting the coverage, because this is people who love motorsport and are spending their hard-earned savings on motorsport and doing an event like that. These cars are very cheap to buy, cheap to repair, which means if you've got a team of 4 or 5 of you, between you can probably get there on a reasonably normal salary. Now, I'm not saying it's cheap, because it's not, it's still expensive. It's motorsport, because you still need all the kit, the license, etc., and the testing and the tyres. But you know, these people are normal, everyday people who have 9 to 5 jobs during the week normally, and they want to go racing and they want to have fun. There is also the Citroen C1 Championship these days, which has a 24-hour race as well, which was at Spa as well. And that, again, that's just so cool and doesn't get the coverage that it deserves. You know, I know these aren't professional racing drivers, which is why mainstream media will completely ignore it, but why can't they show motorsport for fun? Because this is what we want. We want people to see that it is achievable. Somebody will see it and be like, Citroen C1, surely I can afford that with 4 of my friends who also want to go racing, or, you know, I can pay to join I can pay to join a team who've got everything in place. You know, people would pay that, but people just don't know about it. So those two are kind of oddball 24-hour races for you to have a look at. And again, I will link down in the description all the links for things that I've shown in this video so far. So as usual, we are going to finish off this by showcasing other content creators on the internet. And today we have a completely independent YouTube channel. So rather than it being a team or a race series or a professional racing driver, we've got somebody who's got a really cool concept that they do, and they do it really, really well, which is the key to YouTube. And I hinted to it at the start of the video with a bit of a teaser, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it up on the screen for you to see in full, and then I will talk about what we've just seen. Okay, so now you've seen that, you might be thinking like I was the first time I saw this video. So this is the first video that I saw of his content, and I was kind of like, what did I just watch? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you another video which will give you a little bit more of an idea of what you just watched. Now that was cool, right? So what he does is he uses a green screen to put around him, other than literally just showing the connector for the steering wheel and his gear shift, but around all of that, including the screen, is green screen. He then puts on virtual reality goggles and projects in post-production, not while he's sat there, but in post-production, what he sees in his virtual reality goggles onto the green screen, so it looks like he is looking out of the car whilst he's driving. So you see the real steering wheel that he's holding, whilst he then can look around like that and see what's in the game. It's very clever, and how he came up with it I don't know, but I think it is one of the coolest bits of editing I've ever seen, and certainly one of the motorsports. So please do go and check out his channel. It's the top thing that I'll link in the description. But I mean, how cool is that? It looks like he's driving the car, but he's not, but is he? So people always say that, is this real life or is it a game? I think this is the only way you can do it to actually fool people. And you know, when virtual reality gets up to speed with graphics, you know, with like 4K, 60 FPS, 140 FPS, whatever it might be, this sort of technology is going to be insane. So do go and check him out because he deserves it. He's already got 20,000 subscribers, so he's doing pretty well for himself. But do go and check it out because it's a really, really cool channel and great content, which is what we are all about. But that is going to be it for today. Please do like it if you like the content, and if you want to see more, please do subscribe. We are doing this weekly now, every Wednesday. But for now, that is going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.